The day I met Oliver Patrick, he was sitting in a sandbox. His knees were dirtied up from crawling around too much. He was always a pretty dirty kid. The teacher was always scolding him for the mud on his face. He laughed it off, though, 'cause that was the kind of kid he was. And next thing you know, he's running around reinventing gel worldwide by dipping his hair in a puddle and sloshing it around. A cheaper and more earth-friendly way of getting your hair styled. Or so he said. But I suppose if we're going to strictly talk about the type of person Oliver was, well, on the day I met him, I can tell you got a pretty good idea. A better idea than most people had in their entire lifetime. The day I met Oliver Patrick, he was crying. Kids cry. It's something that comes naturally to them. To hold out your arms and beg for attention while salt tears work their way from your eyes. It's not dripping down at random intervals. So it wasn't unusual for the teachers to pat his head and tell him it'll be all okay before walking on ahead. I didn't know what was bothering him. I didn't really care, to be honest. At this point in our timeline, I was 4 years older than him, a 6th grader, still going through that awkward stage of who am I and what's my life going to be like, while trying to learn English. I wasn't social at all, and it didn't really bother me. I read books during recess, and no one ever bothered me. Except him. Now, I don't know if it was fate or just a twitch of nerves. Maybe he reminded me a little of my brother back home. I don't know. But that day, I walked up to Oliver Patrick. I still don't know exactly what he was crying about. Over the years, I've pieced together little tidbits of information that happened along that time. He was being bullied. His parents were going through a tough divorce. He was failing grades even at that age because he was what the teachers called slow. Maybe it was a combination of all of them. Or none. I never cared to ask. I don't think he'd really care to answer. The fact was, I patted his head, just like I'd seen the teachers do, and told him to stop crying, 'cause it'd be okay. I was going to walk on my way, but apparently fate had something in store for him too, for he grabbed the hem of my dress, looked up at me with those baby green eyes, red and puffy from sobbing, and broke down in pieces all over my new uniform. People stared, but he just cried and cried and cried till eventually his tired eyes closed into a peaceful slumber. Then he tugged me down and used me as a pillow. I didn't approve, obviously, but I didn't have the heart to push him away. I think that was the best and worst thing I've done in my whole life. After that, Oliver quickly became attached to me. Now, don't get the wrong idea. I tried to push him away. I yelled, I glared, I ignored him. He just kept on smiling. Every day he'd come up to me and open his arms in a big bear hug. I remember I used to tell him, touch me and you'll lose that arm. But he just giggled like I was kidding. At the time, I really wasn't. I still tease him about it now. But he doesn't give me hugs anymore, so it's harder to find an opportunity. Days led into months, into years, and I found myself in an unbreakable bond with this child. Even our 4-year difference couldn't hide the fact we were attached at the hip, however unproportionate said hips may be. My coldness started to melt away, and his started to form up. We grew, we laughed, we cried, and I grew to love him more and more each day. I'm going to tell you something now that I want you to keep in mind. I die by the end of this novel. This book is about the privileged lives of Moraline Lopez and Oliver Patrick. Soon you'll meet Hayden Parker, another major player in the tale to unfold, Eclair, Samantha, and Simon Richards, the French triplets, Eno and Candy, a tale all their own if I may say so myself, Rena Secour, the popular girl I'm sure you all know, as well as many others who have crossed our paths. To keep you on the inside of this loop, we will not present the story from one eye, but many eyes, all interlocking in one collaborative story. I'll stop narrating now and allow you to glimpse into our existence. I may pop back every once in a while, just to clarify things. Who knows? Maybe if he feels it's important enough, Oliver will too. With that, I leave you with one more note of guidance. What you read in this story may seem cliché, may catch you by surprise, may make you roll your eyes or bawl in tears. But you must remember one thing. Life is not what you see, but how you see it. It's 3 o'clock. School's just letting out. Oliver and I both go to a privileged school for those higher class families, so we're both extremely busy in or out of school. We're zooming in on a day that changed us forever, whether we knew it or not. So please, pay more attention to it than we did. Maybe you won't be as confused in the end as we were.